Hundreds of South Africans with blocked IDs are threatening to shut down Home Affairs offices in Tshwane. The Pretoria High Court ruled last year that blocking IDs without due process is unlawful, but the department has been slow to act. Lawyers for Human Rights says affected citizens still face those delays. So let's speak to the National Director for that organization, Wayne Ncube. Wayne, thank you so much for the time. Appreciate it. It's been a long-standing saga. It does go back a few years. In fact, it was 2 million, and I think now it's 385,000. Just clarify that for me. And also take us back. How did this begin? Why was it happening as it was? And why is it still blocked?
Yes, no, thank you for having me. So the background to this is that a lot of people were having their IDs blocked without any due process by the department for a whole host of reasons. And a lot of people were coming to us and other organizations like LegalWise for assistance, and we had been trying to resolve this issue, and we realized that there was no real system around what happens when there's a suspicion of someone having maybe a duplicated ID or anything like that. And the only thing that would happen is that the person's ID would be blocked pending an investigation, which never happened. And then that number climbed all the way to the millions, where it now became a national crisis. And so we had to bring an application to get legal clarity on how ID blocking should be done. And there was no statute that allowed the state to do what they'd been doing. And so the court ruled that they must unblock all the IDs that happen. And if they want to block an ID, they have to go to court. That means that allows for some sort of due process for information to be available, as opposed to someone waiting 10 years, having provided all the information and now not able to move on with their life. Some of the clients that we have been attending to have had their IDs unblocked. A lot of them have not, and we are still getting a lot of clients who come in every day saying they have the same situation.
Did Home Affairs say why exactly they haven't been able to unblock the remainder? Because at this point, one would think that they're in contempt of a court order here.
Yes, so they have already been ruled to be in contempt in the past because they were initially given 1 year to unblock all IDs, 90 days to come up with our own list. What they claimed was, which might be fair, given the large number of people that they've done this to, there were too many cases for them to investigate over a short time frame. And so they asked for a 2-year extension. But now it's been about 1.5 years since then, and the progress is still exceedingly slow. And we haven't seen any attempts by Home Affairs to come to the courts to say these people's IDs definitely need to be blocked. And so it is something that's taking a lot of time, and it is a frustration. And the disappointing thing was they didn't even lay out a plan of what they're going to do with this 2-year period that they had been granted to ensure that they then attended to all those cases.
Wayne, are you able to share with us? You've just said that the Pretoria High Court ruled that it would be unconstitutional for government ultimately to block these IDs. But what were some of the reasons that were given to those that had their IDs blocked for them to have actually had that case? Because if it's unconstitutional, but it happened, what was the initial reasoning here?
So there's a lot of different reasons. There are probably too many to list. It goes from anything from, oh, someone duplicated your ID, someone else is using it. Oh, I think you speak with an accent, so you can't be South African, even though there are 13 languages. Oh, your surname sounds weird. And all that would happen is an official will then just put a block, but there's no follow-up investigation to then say, okay, here's what's actually happened here, right? And so I do think, obviously, there is a need to be able to ensure and verify that citizens are citizens and they've gained their IDs lawfully, but the unfettered discretion for any reason to just say, okay, no, you look a bit dark, maybe you shouldn't be here. Maybe you're not South African, or, oh, your mother died. How do we know that you can verify this? So it's such superfluous reasons that make it very difficult for administrative processes to move forward. Because now, most of the time, people are then trying to defend something that isn't really concrete. yeah, then there's never a resolution to it.
Sure. Are you able to detail how exactly this has affected the lives of now more than 300,000 people? I mean, initially it was around 2 million.
Yes, and I mean, that number could be well over that. But it starts with everything from, because once your ID is blocked, you now have issues with ensuring that you can keep your bank accounts open. Your employment becomes very tenuous because you don't have an ID that can be verified by employer. People then, it causes a stateless situation in terms of now if you have children, it's difficult to get their births registered and to confer identity to them. So it is something that is constantly spiraling. And then social services, whether you are entitled to a grant, your children are trying to go to school. Normally, there's very little aspects of life now that doesn't require you to be able to provide valid identification. And when your ID is blocked, that means you no longer have valid identification. So it really does pause people's lives. And it is quite, creates a lot of prejudice.
Is there recourse at hand for this now? Because, of course, government delaying and being found in contempt already, surely there should be some form of recourse then.
So as it stands, because the courts have granted them this 2-year extension, there's very little recourse for people, which is why you're seeing people now starting to protest and go and try have themselves heard. There probably is potential for delictual damages, particularly where maybe someone's ID was blocked through negligent action. But for most people, they're not really worried about that. They just want their IDs unblocked. And people can go and try and bring matters to the court and say, look, I've done everything right, here's this. But the court rules are also backed up. And so normally you probably won't have your case before the expiry of the time period that DHA has been given. And so all we're trying to do is put a lot of pressure on them and ensure that there is progress. But it's also very difficult to get progress updates from them at the moment. So it is quite...
I mean, an extension of 2 years is 2 years in which your life could move ultimately backwards. So even that really seems a little bit unfair here. You just spoke about the backing up of some of the cases that happen at DHA. Do you think that a lot of it is because of an under-resourced department from what you've been seeing, from what you've been able to gather when it comes to this case? I mean, is there perhaps even a deeper issue of political will and bureaucratic inertia happening here?
I think definitely the second part, the political will and inertia, is a problem. There's very little incentive for the department to comply with court orders. A lot of courts have taken judicial notice of the DHA's regular and repeated non-compliance with court orders and the slow pace at which they move. And there's also a lot of rotation within the legal department at the Department of Home Affairs, which means whenever you're having discussions with them on progress, you're always starting again every few months now speaking to a different person. So the real problem, though, is what created the situation, which was a lack of proper SOPs. In fact, the DHA had got an opinion from counsel to tell them that what they were doing was unlawful, and they carried on doing it. Once you're now dealing with the backlog of 2 million people, you know, things are going to be slow. What you'd hope is that the department is well run not to get to a situation where that's already happening.
Definitely true. The protest, a last resort, many would think at this stage, but what is the hope here from this protest? How many people are anticipating to also be a part of it?
So we're not in any way involved in the protest, so I'm not sure exactly how many people will be there, but I think what is clear is there's so many South Africans who have been crying for their cases to be resolved. We have matters where people have been stuck in this limbo for more than 10 years, and they just keep on getting told, no, come back in 6 months, come back in 6 months, go get this document, you get this document, nothing happens. And so the protest is obviously an expression of dissatisfaction with DHA, and hopefully it will show that there are real people who are facing real consequences over these actions, and hopefully it will drive at least some impetus to fast-track what they're trying to do with verifying and unblocking all these IDs.
Yeah, I mean, there's still so many people who are waiting for this, thousands as we've been speaking for, and ultimately it is a bit of justice that they're waiting for here. Perhaps you're messaging to some of those that are waiting, losing hope, fearing for the worst at this stage, because you know, just you can't leave the country, you can't enter the country, you're stuck in limbo here.
Yes, you are. And I guess what I would say is, it is good that people can have their voices heard. We are in a participatory democracy, and the more pressure you can put on civil agents who, again, work for us, work for citizens, the more you can have your voice heard, the more you can have things move along. We are lucky that, unlike a lot of countries, we do have a free judiciary with a rights-based system. And so at least our courts are able to push momentum towards this. And at some point, this will